got her feet, we groomed her. It's time to saddle her up and go for a ride. So first I want to make sure I have all my gear next to my horse for safety, so I'm not going back and forth to the tack room, leaving my horse unattended. So I have my saddle, my girth, my square saddle pad, and my bridle with this pad that's attached to the saddle. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this baby pad, I call them, that we wash often, and I'm going to gently come up to my horse and carefully put it on her back. This part of the saddle pad is forward. This is where the girth is going to go to keep the saddle in the proper place. You want to make sure it's not folded. Then I'm going to pick up my saddle. Now how do I do that? I'm going to hold on to the cantle and the pommel, and I'm going to gently lift it up. And I'm going to use my left hand to kind of carry it like this. And I want to make sure I move slowly when I saddle my horse. So I'm going to lift up the saddle and gently place it on her back. All right, so we use a fuzzy pad here that's already attached to our saddle, and we don't wash these that often, but we do wash the baby pads a lot. You want to make sure that this pad is not folded over, or the flap of the saddle folded over. You want to make sure it's lying flat on your horse's back and that it's not smushing against her withers. Then I take the girth and I'm going to attach the girth to the billets. A couple important tips about putting your saddle on your horse. Usually, most of the time, you want to saddle your horse from the left side. So I'm on the left side of the horse, and I'm going to lift the saddle up here onto the left side. And the second very important tip is we want to make sure that the withers don't get a blister. So you want to make sure that the saddle fits your horse properly and that the saddle pads are up in the gullet so that there's a little space. And then I take my girth and I'm going to put the girth on the right side first and then come back to the left side to attach the girth. This girth has elastic on both sides and it has a little metal piece here. You know that this little metal piece should always be facing forward. So we're going to attach the girth this way. All right, so we're going to go through the saddle pad and attach to the first and third billet. There you go. And then we're going to go underneath, around the front of the horse. Good girl. So we've attached the girth to the right side, and now we came around the front of the horse, and we're going to carefully keep an eye on our horse to make sure she seems calm and steady. Reach underneath her belly with our right hand and grab the girth. As you can see, this girth, or the belt, has two keepers, and we're going to gently lift the saddle, go through the saddle pad, and attach it. And now the saddle is on correctly. Remember, before you get on your horse, out by the mounting block, you're going to want to check and probably retighten your girth. So don't forget that important step. The next step is to learn how to properly put the bridle on. Please watch the next video to learn about this. And remember, if saddling and bridling your horse feels a little awkward at first, don't worry, that's totally normal. With practice, 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 you too will be a master soon. And now we're back in the cross ties. We've taken our horse's bridle off, and now it's time to take off the saddle. The first thing I like to do, if your stirrups are not already up, is to check your stirrup, and if they're dirty, use a little brush to get off any dirt. Then you're going to roll your stirrups up. You hold the leather, and you push the stirrup all the way up and tuck the leather in. So that's the first step if your stirrups are not already up. Then it's time to undo the girth. So we're going to lift the saddle flap, lift the billet guard, and then carefully undo the girth. Unclick the first side of the girth, unclick the second side of the girth. It's important that you don't just drop the girth, as that could scare your horse. So you're going to carefully lower the girth under her legs. And now we need to go to the other side of the horse and undo the girth on the other side. Good girl, Gracie. Always keeping an eye on your horse's expression, making sure she's calm and relaxed. So again, you're gonna lift up the saddle flap, lift up the billet guard, and then undo the girth. And then carefully take it out from under the saddle pad. And now the girth is detached from the horse. So now it's time to take off the saddle. I always go to the left side of the horse to take off the saddle. And you're gonna wanna take it with two hands. So you're gonna take the front of the saddle, the pommel, and the back of the saddle with the cancel, and you're gonna take everything off her back. The saddle pad and the saddle. Carefully pull it towards you. And then put it on your left arm here. Now you've got some options of what to do with your saddle. You can either put it on the ground with the pommel facing down, or if you have a saddle rack, like we do here, you can gently place the saddle on the saddle rack for now. And then the girth, it might be sweaty underneath, so you don't want to wreck the stitching in your saddle. So you can put the girth next to it. And then it's important to check your horse's back to make sure that there's no injuries from the saddle, right? That her back looks normal and there's no rough spots anywhere. That's really important to make sure the saddle fits on your horse's back correctly. So there you have it. That's how we take off our saddle. And then we will put the saddle away. Now that the saddle is off our horse's back, it's important to take a minute to check your horse's back and stomach where the girth is. You want to make sure that there are no rubs or blisters or pressure points so that your horse is always comfortable when you're riding. So her back looks good and it looks fine underneath her stomach as well. The next step is to groom our horse and put her away, and then we'll put our bridle and saddle back in the tack room. And now that our horse is back in her stall, getting a well-deserved break, there's one last step before we as the riders get a break, and that is putting our equipment away and cleaning up the cross ties. Now let me show you how to properly put your saddle away in the tack room. All right, so I'm gonna take the saddle and the saddle pad, again, on my left arm, over my forearm. I'm gonna take the girth with me too, and follow me, I'll show you where to put things away in the tack room. So it's important that the saddle pad that might be sweaty, that you leave it somewhere before you put it away so it can dry. So I like to flip my saddle pad over and let it dry. And then the girth, I'm gonna put my girths, I store them. This is Grace's girth, so it's going to be on her bridle rack here. That's going to be there. And then the saddle, this is the Rebecca saddle. So I'm going to find the saddle rack that says Rebecca, and I'm going to store the saddle pommel against the wall. And the last step, after I get it put back in its proper place, is I'm going to put a saddle cover on top of it so that it stays safe and non-dusty until the next time I come. So these are my tips on how to put your things away properly. This helps, and I'll see you in the next video.